literally a Herculean effort. And this podcast is the podcast was designed to be about leaders doing really important and extraordinary things in this little town of Bristol. And what better example of that than the work you guys have done to recover from such a massive event. But first, you're a pretty interesting story yourself.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
want to slow down a bit before we get to the Hurricane Recovery Project. And I want to talk about Olivia Bailey.
I grew up in Chilhowie and then spent 4 years at Emory and Henry and before, moving into my professional career. So,
Yeah.
local girl. People ask me that question all the time, and I'll tell you that I don't really recall a time that I thought that that was going to be my future, but I just remember someone asking me once I got into high school, what do you think you're going to do? And my natural response was, I guess I'm just going to be a reporter. And I can't tell you really where that ever came from, other than the fact of, and I still laugh about this to this day, when I was in fifth grade, I created this newspaper that I distributed within my elementary school. And it was called the Funky Monkey. I hope this never, exists anywhere else. But I would write this newspaper and I would put it out with like boxes so people could contribute to it. And so I think that's really my first step into the journalism world. So yeah, once I got to Emory and I really never thought I would end up at Emory and Henry. I just thought, I'm going to end up at one big SEC Division One school, and the puzzle pieces kind of fell into place. I'm a community person, and so as soon as I took my first visit on the campus there, they were kind of canceling their classes just to talk to me about the culture and what I would learn and how everything would be on campus. And professors were walking me to different classes in the snow. And from that moment that I stepped on the campus, I knew that's where I was going to attend. I ended up running cross country there, studying mass communications. And at the time, it was public policy and community service. And I call it my miracle, but I didn't know Emory's a private institution, if I would be able to afford the tuition there. And it so happened, I just said, I'm going to try the first semester here. If I can afford it, I can. If I can't, that's going to be okay too. And the Bonner Scholarship, which is a community service-based scholarship, one person didn't show up, and I was the first alternate, which covered my tuition for the rest of my time at Emory and Henry. And so that's really what led to internships at CNN, at CBS Evening News in New York. I mean, and all of that was from my advisors and the community
Wow.
support that I had there that eventually,
Yeah.
early internships led me to WCYB, which ended up being a 10-year career for me.
So tell me about the internships, because I think kids in college, I call them kids, but
I do too.
they are. I don't think they put enough importance on internships. Like, they're life changing, right?
I was just having this conversation the other day with two university presidents at a meeting that I was in, and I said that internships were the most important thing to me because I learned what I did love and what I was good at, but then I also learned what I didn't like and where I did want to live and didn't want to live. And, I interned at CNN in the news source department. Gosh, that was 2013 probably. So, and I have a mentor, Jason Mucci, that I still have today. He still checks in on me
And
when
this
I'm
is
changing.
CNN?
CNN. Yep.
Okay. In
So
Atlanta?
in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Went down there. I worked with over 900 affiliates for news stations across the country. I really got ingrained in the culture, learned what they were doing, and loved it. But then I wanted to come back to local news. I still had some time to finish at Emory. And then I earned a fellowship in New York City with CBS Evening News and the International Radio and Television Society. Loved it, got that experience, but I always thought, I want to live in a city, I want to work in big media. And then once I got up there and had that experience, I realized, well, I can make so much more of a difference at home, working in local news and becoming, a part of that community. And I think that's why I was so passionate to come back to Southwest Virginia and Northeast Tennessee and serve this community, as opposed to, being in the national news cycle. And, you do make a difference there, but it's not at the same level, at least for me, to get to know my neighbors and kind of make that difference.
Yeah.
I have a college advisor, Dr. Tal Stanley, that, we had fights back and forth of, I want to go to the city. Well, Olivia, we had a lot of studies on place and what place means to a person. And, it took me moving away to a big city to recognize that. But as soon as I got home, I just dove right in. And you're right, in the television world and the broadcast world, everybody's looking at market sizes, trying to move up, trying to increase salary. None of that was really ever important to me. Obviously you have to have a livelihood and be able to support yourself and your family. But when I saw the difference that I could make going into the coal fields and telling the stories of the coal fields, or today in the work that I do, it still impacts me of, helping Hurricane Helene, or, helping organizations that might not have the notoriety or the public attention that they need. And I just saw every day the difference that I was able to make.
Yeah, the word you use, a sense of place, I think is often underestimated. Like, we're so mobile. We think about ambition and being able to move and follow our dreams and spread our wings, but place is a human. It's an important part of being a human.
It completely wrecked my sense of success. The world and society tells us that, the larger your salary is, or the more accomplishments that you have, that's what makes you successful. But in my experience, it's all been about, am I a person in this community who is making a difference and making this a better place for other people to live, for future generations to succeed, for the people who live in this community to have a better life? And that, that's what success has become to me. I was supposed to take a job right out of that CBS internship in the Boston market, which is number 7 in the country. And I was down to the wire day of, that they have to have my answer on this, on whether or not I'm going to move to this new station. It was startup station. I'd known this person from a previous job, networking was amazing, but there was something about my heart and prayerfully considering this option that I just couldn't make it work. WCYB was definitely in the mix. And at one point, this news director, when I call him to tell him, my heart's just not in this, and his response to me was, well, you can move to a smaller market and make less money. And I just said, okay, I guess that's what I'm going to do. And so, from that day forward, as soon as I went back on the air, I am proud to represent all of the entities that I've represented. I've been proud to work for the places, but it's never been about me. It's about the communities that I serve, the people who are part of these communities, because as you well know, people from Southwest Virginia and Northeast Tennessee are some of the most hardworking, resilient people that I've ever met. And so just to be a part of that and to be recognized with that, I'm so proud of that.
Find a way.